Neilist here, and welcome to the 5 childhood games challenge. I'm not sure why it's called a challenge because I'm just listing them, but I was tagged by Elytris to do this. So here it goes. These are just kind of the 5 games that really impacted my childhood and growing up. They're the ones that kind of stick out the most is what I'm doing. Ones that I sunk many hours into of growing up. No real particular order. First one is Diablo. I'm going to kind of lump Diablo 1 and 2 together because it was kind of a progressive thing. I started playing the first Diablo when I was in 2nd grade, when my friend introduced me to it. And then both me and my dad kind of played it together. And then when I was in 3rd grade is when Diablo 2 came out, which gave me enough time to get through Diablo 1 and beat it with my dad. And then Diablo 2 I played from 3rd grade on through high school. And then I had probably stopped playing it for maybe 2 years when Diablo 3 had come out. That was a game that took up a lot of my time, and I loved that game. I was never super amazing at it. You know, I never did the ultimate nightmare runs with the super bad guys on Battle.net or anything like that. But I definitely played the crap out of that game. By the time I stopped, I had a couple characters in like level 90 plus. And so much time wasted in that game. I loved it so much. And I just got like enthralled in the story. That was something I loved about it. It was cheesy, over the top kind of story, but I loved it. I don't know. I could not get enough of that story. My favorite character in the first one, I didn't really have a favorite character. They were all kind of the same, very minor differences between the 3. But in the second one, my favorite was definitely the Necromancer. I loved having my armies of skeletons and things running about. That was a lot of fun. Second game on my list is going to be Myst. This is a game that is like the pinnacle of epic scale puzzle games. In Myst, you know, I remember playing it with my dad. I was young when that game was around. But we had a notebook and a sketchbook that had been basically filled with notes and diagrams, things to help us solve the puzzles by the time we were done with that game. You know, we wanted to find everything, solve all the puzzles, figure out what the heck was with the 2 sides, because you had a guy that you gathered the blue pages for, and then there was a guy that you gathered the red pages for. And I'm not sure I wanted to spoil what happened, because I might play that game on this channel now that I'm thinking about it, if I can find it and get it to work and all that. I think it might be on Steam, actually. That would be really cool. And then to play its predecessor, Riven. And speaking of which, just to show you how much we were into this game, I've got this huge art book from it called From Myst to Riven: The Creations and Inspirations. And this is just a beautiful book that just illustrates, you know, there's the creators of Myst, some of the original artwork from it. And it just goes through a lot of the story, a lot of the concept behind it. It was a, 3D generated images, but a very 2D kind of point and click puzzle game and you just went around in these beautifully rendered landscapes. Just gorgeous stuff, you know. And if you had been able to interact with the environment like, an FPS or something, they would have been the top of the line graphics for the time. Mostly it was like pre-rendered stuff that you explored, one step at a time. And there were some things in it that were animated, and when they were animated, it was still gorgeous. But the level of puzzles and difficulty, and then all the people in it were live action filmed, so you interacted with them a bit. It wasn't like a role play kind of a thing. You just mostly got parts of the story from them. So there was never any people you actively conversed with. It was all like, you're in a cage, this guy gives you a speech, and then he walks away, and then you don't see another person for hours of gameplay. It was kind of lonely, but it was okay because you just explored beautiful landscapes. So I might do that game on this channel. The next game is StarCraft. I played the first StarCraft for much of my elementary on into junior high and high school. I was never competitive level, I was good enough to beat the game on normal difficulty. But I would play that with my dad and my friends all the time. That was so much fun. I love that game. But yeah, I don't know. I could never be good enough to compete on BattleNet. I played on there every once in a while if I didn't have one of my friends to play with or my dad. I would just be in like the lower tier games. I could do a Zerg rush, but it didn't compare to people that make money off of that game. That's for sure. It was another game that I liked the story a lot. It was goofy and over the top and ridiculous, but it was a lot of fun. My favorite race was always the Protoss. I always thought they were so cool, and their voices were just awesome, especially the Archon with the cheat code built into his speech. The power overwhelming. That was a lot of fun. My next game would have to be Unreal Tournament. The first one is a game that also came out while I was in elementary. I played so much of that game. I guess the games on this list are the ones that I played the most, and Unreal Tournament was definitely a lot of my time. And then when Unreal Tournament 2003 and then 2004 came out, I played the crap out of those too. Man, it was just a gory, bloody, fast-paced first-person shooter. I've never been able to play the slower-paced first-person shooters like Call of Duty or Medal of Honor or whatever else. I was always much more into the fast-paced, Quake, Unreal Tournament, Painkiller, things like that, where it was just crazy, quick. If you camped, you would die. You can't hold still. You have to move or you're dead. And I appreciate how they did not hold back. It was that 90s grit to it. If you had this, there was this weapon called the flat cannon, which was always my favorite, and it just takes this ball of metal, there's an explosion behind it, and then shrapnel just shreds whoever's in front of you. If you timed it right and hit the person just right, you go boom, and their top half just disintegrates, and then you just see a pair of legs fall to the ground. That was funny. Yeah, the level of gore in that game was intense, and That was one of the things I loved for it. It was good for taking out my prepubescent angst on it, just going and blow people up for a while. Uh, Love that game. Oh, and there's a new one coming, just called Unreal Tournament, and I'm so excited because I guess it's going back to like the roots of Unreal Tournament, back to its glory days of Unreal Tournament 2K4 and even the original, except it's pretty. It's Unreal Tournament 3. They kind of meh. It was more. It was closer in taste to Gears of War, which I didn't really like. It was definitely faster paced than Gears of War, but it slowed down and it was chunky, and you didn't have the creativeness of the different things, the different people and races and robots and the various different things. It was just like you had the humans and the Necrus, which kind of sucked. It's like, and they all just kind of looked the same. That very Gears of War-ish look to them, which was unfortunate. And then, I mean, I played Unreal Tournament 3 a lot. I beat it and stuff, and the way they tried to attach so much story to it and tried to make sense of the death matches and whatnot, like, you know, when you go into a death match and you kill people and you respawn and stuff, they have respawners all over the planet and in the space stations and on the other planets. You know, that's why death matches happen for some reason, instead of it just being a tournament like in Unreal Tournament. It was just, they had a little bit of story. You know, it was a tournament hosted by the Leandri Corporation for convicts and military people and whoever else wanted to enter the tournament to go and just kill each other, and whoever did the best at killing everyone else won. Yay, that was it. And I loved it for that. It was pure and simple and just fucking fun. Yeah, so Unreal Tournament, grew up on that game, love that shit. I hate the slow paced first person shooters, arena shooters all the way. My last game on my list is the kind of spiritual predecessor to Halo, and that is Marathon. I love Marathon above all the other games I've mentioned. This is the game that really defined my childhood. It was a very, you know, the first Doom kind of gameplay and graphics. It was a little cleaner than Doom, but it had that, you know, running around in a 3D environment made up of 2D creatures and things. But it was so much fun, and the story was so deep and complex. You know, there are a few websites out there for the cult following of Marathon that to this day are still kind of going through and deciphering the lore of Marathon and trying to figure out what the heck was really going on in like the background and with all the dialogue that happened in that game, because it was deep and bizarre and amazing. And that was another game that had a bit of puzzle to it, not nearly as in depth as Myst, but it was, you know, kind of a mind fuck to figure out some of the levels. You know, I think I am going to play that game on this. That's going to be my nostalgia game for my channel, is Marathon. I'll try to go through all three. There was Marathon, Marathon 2 Durandal, and Marathon Infinity. And that's a game you can get for free online. You just download it. You don't even install it. You just download it, it works, and you can just play Marathon. It's awesome. You know, I'm going to do that. Yep, it's going to happen. So those are my 5 childhood games. I guess I'm supposed to tag people now. I guess I'll tag the 2 that have kind of been with me this whole time and have really influenced me. So thank you for tagging me, Elytris. I now tag Major Sven and Chazzy V. I hope you guys see this. I'll yell at you if you don't. You're up.